What is going on, college basketball fans? Today we got my updated Dannyology Power 35 for week 16 of college basketball. I'm ready to get it started. I just want to say subscribe if you guys are new. We got daily college basketball March Madness coverage here on the channel. So hit that sub button, hit that like button if you guys enjoy. And yeah, guys, let's get it started. Alright, so here we have our Week 16 Dannyology Power 35. March Madness is almost here. I'm feeling it, man. I feel it in the vibes. And we got a new number one again this week. Last week we had Alabama as our number one. They took a loss to Tennessee this week. Big bounce back after that with a 50-point win over Georgia. They're still up there at number 3, but our new number one is the Houston Cougars. And Houston, another 2-0 week this week. They only had the 2 losses on the year, one coming to Alabama, the other one coming to Temple. They redeemed themselves with the return game on the road at Temple, got them back in that one. So Houston, one of my favorites to win it all this season. They're playing really good basketball as of late. They look really good to the eye test. Houston in here at my number 1. At number 2, we have a brand new number 2 this week as well, and that is the Kansas Jayhawks. Kansas, 2-0 week this week, including a big win over a very, very hot Baylor Bears team, and they were down in that game at halftime. But in the second half of that Kansas-Baylor game, Kansas was looking like one of the best, if not the best teams in the country. That team that I saw in the second half, I was like, okay, Kansas can repeat and go back-to-back and win the national championship again if they are playing like they did in the second half of that Baylor game. At number 3, I already mentioned it. They were number 1 last week. They had to drop down here to number 3 after a loss to Tennessee. I don't fault them too much for that loss there at Tennessee because I knew they were going to lose that game. Tennessee plays good and they play up to their opponents. They beat Alabama, they beat Kansas this year, they beat Texas, they played Arizona very close on the road. So Tennessee, they play really good against good opponents, and they also play pretty good at home. Usually, not so much as of late, but usually, Tennessee has a really good home court advantage. And Alabama did bounce back from that with a 50-point win, just like they did from the Oklahoma loss when they beat Vandy by 30 points, or by 50 points. They beat Georgia by 50 points after this loss. So you don't want to play Alabama the game after they lose. So, looking out for teams. At number 4, we do have UCLA, and I was debating to put UCLA up this high. They were number 4 last week for me, and they didn't lose. They just play in a very weak conference in the Pac-12, and UCLA is undefeated in the month of February. And now the competition level isn't quite there, but you guys know that I value win streaks quite a bit here on these rankings. If you guys have been watching, since any of my former rankings videos. But I value win streaks a lot. UCLA's been on a massive win streak. They're playing really good as of late. They're up here at number 4. At number 5, I do have the Purdue Boilermakers. Another 1-1 week. It seems like, the past 3 weeks they've gone 1-1. And this week it was a loss to Maryland. They bounced back from that with a big win over Ohio State. And, they blew out Ohio State, but they're supposed to. Ohio State's one of the worst teams in the Big Ten this year. And Purdue, I debated keeping them up there at number 4 above UCLA, but UCLA's winning games. Purdue's, having some struggling times right now. So I got Purdue down at number 5. At number 6, I do have Arizona. Arizona's been playing pretty good basketball. They did take that loss to Stanford, a couple weeks ago, but, they're starting to play really good basketball. And whenever they do play good opponents, they win, against Tennessee, against Creighton, against UCLA. They play good against top-tier opponents, and I think that's huge, to look at. So Arizona, I think they jumped from number 9 last week up to number 6. At number 7, I do have Virginia, and Virginia, it seems like they just beat every single opponent that they face by the skin of their teeth. And that could be a good thing, that could be a bad thing, or it could be both. It could be a good thing because you're going to need that experience, and like Virginia even needs even more experience because they're already, you know, a senior-led team and have a lot of experience on that roster. But a lot of experience in those close games is very valuable whenever we get to March Madness, because every game is going to be close when these teams' seasons are on the line. So I think it could be a good thing, but it's also kind of worrisome that, you know, they're barely putting away teams like Boston College. So Virginia, they haven't lost since the VTech game at the beginning of the month. They're still playing pretty good. They only have a couple losses in ACC conference play. I think they have 3, one to Pitt, VTech, and Miami on the road. So Virginia still up here at number 7. At number 8, I do have Marquette. They had a really good last-second tip-in by Prosper to win the game against Xavier. They're back in the top 10 this week. I think they fell out last week after they lost to UConn. We're around 11-12. Now they're back in the top 10 at number 8 with a 2-0 week this week. And right behind them at number 9, we have a very good team that I'm pretty high on still, even after that loss to Kansas. I'm really high on Baylor. You know, they still won 10 of their last 12 in the hardest league in the country. They have 3 NBA guards on their team. And Baylor, yeah, they do drop like only 1 or 2 spots after a 1-1 week with a loss to Kansas. They did beat Kansas earlier in the year in Waco. I got Kansas still up here at number 9 in the top 10. Right behind them, we do have Gonzaga, a team that lost to Baylor by 1 point on a neutral site court in the non-con earlier this year. So it's crazy how, you know, this far into the season, week 16, these two are, you know, neck and neck. And the determining factor of where they're ranked is really because of that game. So Baylor is at number 9, Gonzaga sitting here at number 10, and they've been playing really good basketball as of late. They have that one loss to Loyola Marymount, and they at home, but then they go on the road to Loyola Marymount and beat them by like 55 points. So yeah, they wanted to make a statement there, and they for sure did. They're back in the top 10 for me, playing very good basketball. Yeah. At number 11, we do have Texas. Not a very good week for the Texas Longhorns. Yes, they did go 1-1, so they did pick up a W, but early in the week, they lost on the road in Lubbock to Texas Tech, and then they come back to home and face Oklahoma and barely win that game in overtime at home to the worst team in the Big 12. So still, a win is a win. They're not easy to come by in the Big 12, but Texas does fall out of my top 10, and they are sitting here at number 11. And I know Texas did beat Gonzaga earlier in the year, but the way they're playing right now, I think Gonzaga is playing a little bit better. Gonzaga also beat Alabama this year, but that doesn't mean Gonzaga is going to be above Alabama. You know, you get what I mean. At number 12, we do have Miami, and Miami have been playing amazing. They're another team, I think, like UCLA. They're undefeated in the month of February, so let's put some respect on Miami's name. I think they're jumping up like 6-7 spots for me this week, playing amazing basketball as of late. And another good week, they'll be in the top 10 for sure. At number 13, we do have another pretty hot team right now, and that is Indiana. They did have a 1-1 week this week, their loss coming on the road to Northwestern, but they were down by quite a bit in that game, and they almost stormed back and won. Ended up losing by 1 point, but Indiana, they bounced back after that one with a big win over Illinois at home, sweeping Illinois for the season. So Xavier Johnson, their starting point guard, still not back, and I think that could be a blessing in disguise for the Hoosiers now, because Jalen Hood-Schifino is starting to play really good for them, and having those 2 really good guards heading into March with, you know, of course, your superstar TJD down low as well. Look out for Indiana. I definitely have my eye out on them. At number 14, I do have Tennessee, and Tennessee's dropping a little bit, you know. Yes, they have really good wins on the season, including a really good win this week over Alabama, and they have other good wins over teams like Texas and Kansas. But Tennessee, they're stacking up a lot of really bad losses. They just got swept by Kentucky. They lost to Missouri. They lost to Vanderbilt. I mean, they're losing games that they shouldn't lose, and they lost 3 of their last 4. So Tennessee, even though they did get a big win over Alabama, Tennessee's still not playing that great right now for me to put them, too much higher in my power rankings. If you wanted to argue Tennessee should be a few spots higher, I'm fine with that, but I have them down here at number 14. I just think Tennessee are frauds. I've been saying it all year long. They're down here at 14. At number 15, we do have St. Mary's, and I could definitely see if you wanted to say, well, St. Mary's beat Gonzaga. They should be at least be a little bit closer, and I hear you on that, but St. Mary's was the home team in that game, and they did have to come back and force overtime and win in overtime for that win. So yes, a really good head-to-head win there for St. Mary's, but right now Gonzaga is playing like the better team, and I think if St. Mary's had to play in Gonzaga, it would be a different story. So I got St. Mary's up here at 15. Still very solid team, a top 15 team, but I have them there. At number 16, we do have Xavier, and Xavier I have a little bit higher actually from last week, and they're actually, they have one of the best starting 5s in the country. They don't have Zach Freemantle right now. He's out with injury, and they still almost beat Marquette on the road, which is not an easy thing to do. So Xavier, if it wasn't for a last-second tip-in by Marquette, Xavier could have jumped up a lot more this week with a road win over Marquette, but still a very solid team. Hopefully Zach Freemantle gets back for their sake for March Madness. At number 17, I do have Creighton. Creighton's got a big game versus Marquette this week at home. Can't wait to watch that one. But Creighton, they do fall, a couple of spots this week after, that loss to Providence in double overtime. I don't fault them too much for that. Still a 1-1 week. Providence is a tough place to play. They forced double overtime in that game. But Creighton, they do have to drop a little bit. But, a win over Marquette in a 2-0 week this week, they could skyrocket back up on these rankings. At number 18, I do have Kansas State. And Kansas State, they've kind of been struggling as of late. Earlier in the week, they lost to Oklahoma. They got a bounce-back win Saturday over Iowa State at home. Split the season series with Iowa State there, and Kansas State, we'll see if they can start to get things back on track now, because they had a little bit of a rough patch there. If they can get them back on track, they can get back into the top 15 range, or even get back into the top 10 team that they once were not that long ago. At number 19, we have maybe the team that's moving up the highest from last week. I think they're moving up like 8 or 9 spots from last week. Northwestern, they're on a nice little win streak with wins that include over Purdue, Indiana, a 20-point win over Iowa today as the day I'm recording this video. Huge wins for Northwestern, and they deserve it, man. They're up here at 19. Like I said, I really value win streaks, especially when they come against such good opponents. And Northwestern's balling. We'll see if they can keep it up and continue to build on this win streak as they travel on to some road games now, because there's that 3-game win streak right there. All of those games were at home. Let's see if they can continue it on the road. At number 20, we do have Iowa State. Iowa State's been struggling recently. A tough loss to Kansas State there. A very physical game. We'll see how they bounce back. For now, they're here at 20, but if they continue to struggle, it can definitely drop down, or they could jump back up into the top 15 with a really good week. At number 21, we do have TCU, and TCU is a team that I think is going to climb this list next week, because Mike Miles is back. His first game back was Saturday against Oklahoma State, where they won by 25 points. So I'm very excited to see Mike Miles back and healthy, and I think that is such a huge piece to their team. One of the best players in the country. Yeah, TCU can easily jump up a lot next week with a really good week there with Mike Miles. At number 22, we do have a team that TCU beat early in the non-con. We do have Providence, and Providence, a really good week this week, and Providence is a really good team, maybe a sleeper to make the Sweet 16. I definitely got my eye out on the Friars because they play really good basketball. I'm a big fan of Ed Cooley. He's one of my favorite coaches in the country. At number 23, we do have NC State. And NC State, a bad loss to Syracuse this week, but they bounce back from that and get a big win over North Carolina. That's got to feel good for Wolfpack fans. At this point, NC State just knocked North Carolina out of the tournament field. So that's got to, be a really good feeling there for NC State fans. At number 24, we do have the UConn Huskies going from Wolfpack to the Huskies. And UConn only played one game this week. I think it was against St. John's. They won that game. Let's see if they can keep that momentum going and put themselves together a really good week, because UConn has the roster of maybe a national championship team if they can just build some consistency. So I still, keep my eye out on UConn. If they ever start to show those flashes again of being that team I know that they can be, I got my eye out on them, but they're still here in the top 25 at 24. At number 25, I do have San Diego State. They are killing it, building a nice little win streak there in the Mountain West now. They're up at 25. At number 26, we do have Texas A&M, and Texas A&M playing very good basketball. 2-0 week for them this week, and in SEC play, I think they only have like 3 losses in conference, so they're killing it. Aggies up here at 26. I feel like I'm a lot higher on them than most, but they're playing outstanding, man. At number 27, I do have Boise State. Right before I started recording this video, I watched them defeat UNLV. A little bit closer than they would have liked it to be in that game, but still really good week for Boise. They play in a really good conference in the Mountain West. Mountain West is very, very solid. They're up at 27. At number 28, I'm probably higher on Arkansas than most, but I have them up here at 28 still. I think that they are just a very talented team. They're supposed to get Nick Smith Jr. back as well. And them and Duke, I go and talk about Duke there at 29. They've been kind of, hand in hand in my rankings throughout the year. And I think it's because they both have a lot of freshmen that start there in their lineups. And they both kind of had a similar story throughout the season. But Arkansas is coming in here at 28. Duke coming in here at 29. Duke's actually been playing pretty well lately. I think a 2-0 week this week. Their last loss came to Virginia on the road, and I don't take too much from that loss, because Virginia on the road, very tough place to play, and Duke should have had 2 free throws to win that game at the end of it. So bad call there, cost them that one. At number 30, I do have the Pitt Panthers making it into the rankings this week. They do, they did take a loss this week to Virginia Tech, but Pitt has some really good wins on the year. They're up towards the top of the ACC. They deserve to be here. They're in here at number 30. At number 31, we do have FAU, and they actually took only their 3rd loss on the season this week, and it came to Middle Tennessee State. So that's not a very good loss there for FAU. But I still think they deserve to be ranked. Still one of the best mid-majors in the country. I still think even if they don't win their conference tournament, they should get an at-large bid. FAU is that good, guys. They look really, really good still. At number 32, back into the top 35, we do have Kentucky. Kentucky's building themselves a nice little win streak as of late. They've won, a lot of their games recently, including a big win Saturday over Tennessee, sweeping Tennessee on the season. So Kentucky back in here at 32. Look out for Kentucky. I mean, I know people don't like to see the Blue Bloods do good in March, but and I don't really either, but Kentucky could be a sleeper in March. Definitely look out for them. At number 33 and 34, I'm going to talk about them together because they're both moving down this week after 0-2 weeks, and that is Missouri and Oklahoma State coming in here at 33 and 34. 0-2 weeks for these two teams. Make it or break it week for them this week. If they take another loss, they're probably going to get bounced out of the rankings. But still, two very solid teams. Let's see how they respond from it this week. And at number 35, I'm pretty sure staying in the same spot as last week, we do have the Memphis Tigers. And Memphis 1-1 week, but their loss coming on the road to my number one team, the Houston Cougs, and also without their best player, Kendrick Davis. But Kendrick Davis is supposed to come back soon, and a healthy Memphis team could be scary come March Madness, so I definitely keep my eye out on them. Have them coming in here at number 35. And my teams to watch for this week, as far as who I think could make it into the Dannyology 35 next week, or maybe they were in it last week and just fell out this week. First off, we do have Nevada, and Nevada was in it last week. Not only were they in it, but they were in my top 30. They took a loss to Utah State this week, and they just barely missed the cut here for me. Right behind them, the team that beat them this week, we have Utah State. Both of these teams in a very good Mountain West Conference. They could easily get into the rankings next week. 3 Big Ten teams to talk about. We got Illinois, Rutgers, Maryland. Illinois, they had an 0-2 week this week. Tough losses for them. Let's see if they can start to build some wins, but they did play a close game in Assembly Hall. Had a chance at the buzzer to win that game, or was it forced overtime? Not for sure. But Illinois, anyway, played in Assembly Hall against Indiana, very, very close, but still 0-2 week. They couldn't make the top 35. Rutgers and Maryland, both 1-1 weeks, both lost to Nebraska this week, so that's no good. Nebraska, surprisingly, actually a very hot team right now, so that's kind of weird, but that's what's happening right now. Maybe Nebraska can stay hot and get a bid steal out of the Big Ten. I personally would love to see that. But Rutgers, Maryland, teams to watch that if it wasn't from Nebraska, Rutgers and Maryland would both be in the top 35 this week. Mississippi State, they're a really good team, a really good defensive team. If they can pick up some W's here this week, I think they got one coming up against Missouri again here soon. They could get back in the top 35. Texas Tech, how about Texas Tech, man? Who would have thought they'd be in this position where they are very close to, being a bubble team in the tournament now. A 3-game win streak in the Big 12, like I said before, by far the best conference in college basketball. Look out for the Red Raiders. And last and probably least, as far as these teams to watch, here we do have USC, and USC, in my opinion, is the third best team in the Pac-12, and they were on a little bit of I think a 2-game losing streak, but they had a good week this week. Let's see if they can close out the season on a high note and secure themselves not only a spot in the Power 35, but a spot in the NCAA tournament. So that is going to do it for the Week 16 Dannyology Power 35 rankings. Make sure you guys subscribe if you guys are new. We got daily college basketball March Madness coverage dropping here on the channel, including our updated rankings every single Monday morning at 7 a.m. Make sure you guys hit that like button as well as the subscribe button if you guys enjoyed, and comment down below if there's a team that I'm missing, a team to watch out for maybe making my rankings next week that I missed. Let me know that down below, and just your overall thoughts and opinions on my rankings. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching.